All right, good evening, everyone. It is 7:30 p.m., Monday, January 6th, 2025, and I would like to call the Brainerd City Council meeting to order. We're going to do things a little bit differently for the first few minutes tonight, take care of some procedural things. We're first going to administer the oath, so I'm going to step up there.
I stand, raise your right hand.
I'm going to be doing the oath of office for 4 council members. Tad Erickson from Ward 1, Jeff Chesak from Ward 3, Mike O'Day at large, and Kevin Stunick at large. If the 4 of you could please stand and raise your right hand. And repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Jeff
Kevin
Chesak,
Stunick,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United
United
States,
States,
the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties
of the office of council member
of the office of council member
of council member
of the city of Brainerd, Minnesota,
of the city of Brainerd, Minnesota,
to the best of my judgment and ability.
to the best of my judgment and ability.
So help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations to all of you. Tony, can you please call the roll?
Erickson,
Here.
Bevins,
Here.
Chesak,
Here.
Johnson,
Here.
O'Day,
Here.
Stunick,
Here.
Badeau.
Here. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, item number 5 on the agenda is to appoint a council member to fill the at-large vacancy. And if this individual is in the room, we will follow that with the administering the oath of office. Just an administrative note, we originally had 7 applicants. Miss Shirley Yeager withdrew via email today at 11:03 a.m. So we have 6. And their names, and these are in alphabetical order by last name: Jeffrey Bipes, Kyle Christensen, Wayne Erickson, Emily LeClaire, Tiffany Stengline, and Kevin Yeager. So before we get into voting, I guess I would just open it up to any of the council members if they have comments or questions for any of the candidates. And I'll just ask a second time, any questions for any of the candidates? Their applications were in your packets. Okay, with that, we're going to go into voting. So basically, I'm going to accept nominations now from any council member for one of those 6 individuals or more.
I nominate Kevin Yeager, Gabe Johnson.
Second. Any other nominations?
I'll nominate Tiffany Stengline.
I'll second.
So we have 2 nominations, Kevin Yeager, Tiffany Stengline. I'll ask a second time if is there a third nomination? And for the final time, is there a third nomination? We have Tiffany Stengline and Kevin Yeager. Okay, with that, the council members, you have pieces of paper in front of you. I guess I would ask now for you to vote for one of those 2 people and pass those to me, please.
Mr. Burrows, are the names of each of our ballots, are they named?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So we do have 6 council members that are here. The procedures that the council agreed upon at the last meeting is if it's a tie, it will take 4 votes for this candidate to be nominated. If it's a tie, we'll go through a second iteration. If it's a tie again, we'll go to a third iteration. On the 4th iteration, if there is, in this case there won't be because we don't have 3 people, but then the mayor would vote on the 4th iteration to break the tie. That's why I understand it. Does anybody have any questions? And also what you guys agreed to last time is that we'd read off the names and the people who voted for them after each round. Any questions on that? And Tony, if you can help me keep track of these? Councilman O'Day votes for Kevin Yeager. Councilman Chezak votes for Kevin Yeager. Councilman Erickson votes for Kevin Yeager. Councilman Stunek votes for Tiffany Stengline. Councilman Johnson votes for Kevin Yeager. And Councilman Bevins votes for Kevin Yeager. Mr. Yeager has been nominated to fill the at-large. He has been voted to approved to get the at-large city council member. He is not here, so we will administer the oath of office at a future date.
Mr. Royals?
Yes, sir.
Is a motion in order to make that appointment?
Yes.
I'll move that we appoint Mr. Yeager to the at-large vacant seat.
Second, Johnson.
Motion by Councilman Chezak, second by
Stunek.
Stunek. Any questions, any conversation? Okay, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. That motion carries. Kevin Yeager has been voted in as the council member. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do, and then I'm going to turn it over to the next president, but we do have to elect a new president of the council. Same rules will apply. I will accept, well, let me just cover a couple things. So a council member cannot nominate themselves, and a second is not required. So at this time, I will accept nominations for council president.
I nominate Councilman O'Day Johnson.
I nominate Kelly Bevins.
We have Councilman O'Day and Councilman Bevins. Is there any more nominations? And I'll ask a second time, any more nominations besides Councilman O'Day and Councilmember Bevins? And third and final time, any other nominations? Okay, at this time, council members, please use your pieces of paper and vote for either Councilman O'Day or Councilman Bevins for city council president. And the same process will apply as we did for the at-large vacancy. Councilman Stunek votes for Kelly Bevins. Councilman O'Day votes for Mike O'Day. Councilman Chezak votes for Mike O'Day. Councilman Erickson votes for Mike O'Day. Councilman Johnson votes for Mike O'Day. And Councilman Bevins votes for Kelly Bevins. So Mike O'Day has 4 votes. I would look for a motion to approve him as the president.
So move to approve.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Chezak, a second by Johnson. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Congratulations, Councilman O'Day, for being the council president. At this time, the meeting is yours. My time in the light is over. But I would certainly invite you to appoint or go through this process and elect a vice president at your leisure.
Is that something that needs to be done immediately, or? Okay, I would like to appoint,
Oh, you gotta, we vote on this.
well, I would like to make a nomination, I guess. You guys make nominations and not me now.
I think anybody can nominate.
I think anybody can nominate. Christian, do you have anybody can nominate for the vice president, correct? Same procedures.
I nominate Kelly Bevins as vice president.
I would nominate Gabe Johnson.
Mike, do you want to go through the process? You want me to?
You can continue doing this part.
So for nominations for the vice president, we have Councilman Bevins and Councilman Johnson. Is there any more nominations? And I'll ask a second time, any more nominations for vice president of the council? And finally, a third time, any more nominations? We have Councilman Bevins, Councilman Johnson for vice president. If not, please cast your votes and pass them my way, please. Okay, and I have 6. So this is for vice president of the city council. Councilman Erickson votes for Gabe Johnson. Councilman Stunek votes for Kelly Bevins. Councilman Chezak votes for Gabe Johnson. Councilman O'Day votes for Gabe Johnson. Councilman Johnson votes for Gabe Johnson. And Councilman Bevins votes for Kelly Bevins. So Councilmember Johnson has 4 votes. I would look for a motion to name him as the vice president.
So move.
Second.
Got a motion by Chezak, a second by Erickson. Any further discussion? I call for the vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We have a president, we have a vice president. Mr. President, the meeting is yours.
You want to
You don't wanna
switch
keep-
spots?
No, we don't have to switch spots.
All right.
It's okay.
Here, you can have this.
Okay. In case it gets loud in here. Thank you.
It'd be a wild group.
All right, if I screw up, sorry, it's my first day. We'll start on number 7. That'll be approval of the agenda.
So move.
Second.
A motion by Chezak, second by Bevins. Any discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passes. Item number 8, we have the consent calendar. This is a notice to the public. All matters listed are considered routine by the council and will all be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless good cause is shown prior to the time the council votes on the motion to be adopted by roll call.
President O'Day, have one minor change to the minutes. The item we just went through that's reflected in the minutes should indicate that we read off each of the votes after they're, by each individual council member after they're called. So that apparently got missed in the minutes. Other than that, I would move to approve the consent calendar with that minor change.
We have a motion with that change. Do we have a second? Motion by Chezak, second by Erickson. Any more discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor? Oh, this is a
Mr.
roll call.
President.
Sorry, I already screwed up.
Erickson,
Yes.
Bevins,
Yes.
Chezak,
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Stunek.
Yes.
O'Day.
Yes, that motion passes. All right, moving on. Number 9, we have unfinished business. 9A, we have to declare a vacancy on the Public Utilities Commission. I believe this would be Administrator Broyles.
As I understand it, this is just a procedural issue to declare a vacancy. This is for Commissioner Erickson's vacancy, and once it's declared, it has to stand for, I believe, 2 weeks before a person can be named.
Okay.
So just maybe just a motion to declare a vacancy in the Public Utilities Commission.
Declare a vacancy on the Utilities Commission.
Second, Johnson.
Motion by Chezak, second by Johnson. Any discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Oh, all against, same sign? That's 2. All right, motion passes. Item 9B, we have a call for applicants. And first, do you go first?
I do.
You go first.
Thank you, President O'Day. If you're at home waiting to find out nominations, those will be made next meeting. We will wait until we have a full council for those. So if you're sitting waiting to see if you're going to get nominated, we will get to you at the next meeting. The following positions are available with our commissions and boards. The Airport Commission, 1 term expiring 2027, Charter Commission, 2 terms expiring 2025, 2 terms expiring 2026, 3 terms expiring 2028. Housing Redevelopment Authority, 1 term expiring 2029. Parks and Rec, 1 term expiring 2029. Public Utilities Commission, 1 term expiring 29, as well as 1 now expiring in 26. Transportation Advisory Committee, 4 terms expiring 2026. We also have the Economic Development Authority, 1 term expiring 2026.
And as council president, I have 1 vacancy on the planning commission expiring 2027. All right, moving on to 9C, we have consideration of the technology director job description and authorizing staff to conduct an internal job posting process. I believe the presenter on this one is Human Resources Director Chris Schubert. Go
Good
ahead.
evening. So on December 19th, the City Council approved the creation of a single integrated city IT department. Staff has prepared a technology director job description to oversee the new integrated technology department. Staff requests that the council approve the attached job description that was in your packet and authorize staff to conduct an internal job posting process to fill the position as soon as possible. Staff is planning to provide a recommendation for the new technology director at your January 21st meeting. And to help expedite that process, one of the items that will be requested is that any applicant for this position provide their staffing vision for the new department, including an organizational chart and draft job descriptions for any recommended positions.
I have a question.
Yeah, Mr. Chezak.
You know, you read through there, and I think in the beginning, it says, I'm paraphrasing here, but is this position going to be required to perform the tasks of those he's supervising, or the department head to anybody he'll be overseeing?
So typically, a director oversees those duties. If necessary, they can provide backup. Typically, we want to have cross-training, so we're trying to help that as much as possible. So short answer is yes, Jeff. Do they know every single nuance? Probably not, but they should be able to help if there's an issue.
Will there be some ongoing training for this individual to learn those job responsibilities that they're overseeing?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions, Jeff?
Oh, thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions for staff? No more questions for staff?
I'd move to approve the job description as presented.
We have a motion.
Second.
And a second. Motion by Chezak, second by Bevins. Any more discussion? Hearing none, let's go to a vote. All in favor? Aye. All against, same sign. Motion passes. Moving on. Let's go to new business. 10A, we have a resignation to accept. The resignation of Street Maintenance 3 Glenn Holst. And this is again Human Resources Director Chris Schubert.
So Mr. Holst submitted his retirement notice a couple weeks ago, and his last working day will be Friday, January 10th. The recommended action is to accept with regret the retirement of Street Maintenance 3 Glenn Holst, effective January 10th, to approve an updated Maintenance 3 Street and Sewer Division job description as presented, and to authorize staff to begin an internal hiring process to backfill the Maintenance 3 position.
All right. I think we can do this in one motion. So we have,
Second.
all right, so the motion is to accept with regret the retirement of Street Maintenance 3 Glenn Holst effective January 10th, 2025, and also approve the updated Maintenance 3 Street and Sewer Division job description as presented, and also authorize staff to begin an internal hiring process to backfill the Maintenance 3 position. We have a motion by Chesak, second, or motion by Bevins, second by Chesak. Any more discussion?
Yeah, I just want to thank Mr. Holtz, years of service,
Many, many years of service.
family-wise too.
All right. Any more discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Against, same sign. Motion passes. Next, we have accepting another resignation. This is for CSO Bailiff, Dominic Bailiff. Again, this is Human Resources Director Chris Schubert as presenter. Thank you.
Sure. CSO Dominic Bailiff recently submitted his resignation. That'll be effective January 13th. Staff recommends that the council accept Mr. Bailiff's resignation and to authorize staff to backfill the position.
So moved, Johnson.
Second.
Motion by Johnson, second by Chesak. Any more discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Against, same sign. Motion passes. 10C, we have another resignation. This one is for Michelle Mendoza. Again, Human Resources Director Chris Schubert.
Michelle Mendoza, our police records management tech, submitted her resignation effective January 2nd. Staff recommends that the council accept Ms. Mendoza's resignation and authorize staff to begin the hiring process to backfill the position.
So moved, Johnson.
Second.
Motion by Johnson, second by Chesak. Any more discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next, we have a hiring for CSO Joshua Winslow. Again, this is Chris Schubert, Human Resources Director.
We received 10 applications for the community service officer position. We interviewed 5 candidates and offered the position to Joshua Winslow, who will start with us on January 14th at $21.31 per hour. Staff recommends to ratify that hiring.
So moved.
We have a motion by Chesak,
Second.
second by Erickson. Any more discussion?
I have some.
Mr. Johnson?
Thank you. Is this Joshua Winslow backfilling the Dominic Bailiff position, or are we going to be hiring another CSO soon?
We would be hiring another CSO.
Okay, thank you.
Any more discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Against, same sign. Motion passes. And next, we have another ratification of hiring for Brian Sierra for journeyman electrician position. Human Resources Director Chris Schubert.
We received 3 applications for the journeyman electrician position. Staff interviewed 2 of those candidates and made an offer to Brian Sorrow. Mr. Sorrow will start with us on January 6th and at step 3 of the 2025 journeyman electrician wage grid, which is $40.10 per hour.
Thank you. Anybody have questions? Looking for a
So
motion?
moved to
Second.
approve or hire.
Motion by Chesak, second by Johnson. Any more discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor? Aye. Against, same sign. Motion passes. Next one, we have MOU for extending the time frame allowing the IBEW employees to work at the hydro facility. This one, again, is Human Resources Director Chris Schubert.
So both our United Steelworkers and IBEW Public Utility Union representatives have agreed to extend the memorandum of understanding allowing IBEW Public Utility employees to temporarily perform the work at the hydro facilities. In 2023, we had negotiated an MOU with a December 31st, 2024 expiration date, which matched the 2022 through 2024 United Steelworker contract. Staff has negotiated another extension, so the MOU will expire on April 1st. That will give us more time to finalize an updated union contract. A copy of the signed MOU is in your packet from both unions. Staff is recommending that to approve that MOU between the city, the United Steelworkers, and IBEW. That will expire on April 1st. Further, to authorize the signature of the city administrator on the MOU.
So moved, Johnson.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Johnson, second by Stunek. Motion is to approve the MOU between the City of Brainerd, the USW Local Number 9230, Unit 09 Union, and the IBEW Local Number 31 Union representing public utility employees that allows IBEW BPU employees to assist at the hydro dam facility as needed to April 1st, 2025. Further, to authorize the signature of the city administrator on said MOU. Any more discussion? Hearing none, let's go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Against, same sign. Motion passes. Next, we have, sure, are we on G here?
Yep.
This is a consideration of approval of the revised employee policy manual. Again, this is Human Resources Director Chris Schubert.
So there were several employment law changes approved during the 2024 Minnesota legislative session. Staff has reviewed and modified our employee policy manual to incorporate those changes, as well as some policy changes that the council has enacted this past year. Some of the changes include the new earned sick and safe time. That language was recommended by the League of Minnesota Cities, and it also impacted our family and medical leave policy. There is new changes for the pregnancy and parental leave, as well as political activity. We have clarified that the work group will be formed when hiring the Public Utilities Director, since we now only have one department head in our Public Utilities Department. Clarified that floating holidays, that new hire will receive one upon hire. References to municipal utility managers was changed to division managers. And again, this change was approved by the council previously. It just needed to be incorporated. Clarified that in order to be eligible for back pay, employees must be currently employed with the city at the time of back pay distribution. Added that when a change of reporting officer occurs, the supervisor needs to complete applicable performance reviews before their last working day. Some minor updates to the technology policy section, and then also updated our 2025 health insurance plans. With that, staff is recommending that we approve the employee policy manual as presented.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for staff? Mr. Johnson?
Yeah, I'm not comfortable voting on this tonight. The red line version was not included in the packet, so I haven't had an opportunity to read that. I've read the new language, what it is, but I haven't compared it to the old language. So I think we should put this off for 2 weeks and have the Personnel and Finance Committee look at the red line version so we actually know what words it is we're actually changing in the employee policy manual. But that's just my opinion.
Is that a motion?
I'll make a motion to put this off for 2 weeks.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second to move this out for 2 weeks and send it to PNF. Mr. Chazak?
Well, I had a question about that. I can ask it at the next meeting. But is this a motion to table, or, I mean, is there any
The
difference?
motion to not take action tonight and go on to the next item.
Fair enough.
You want to include that it goes to PNF?
Yeah,
Okay, is that okay?
it's up to you, you're the president.
Yep, it's in the motion now. All right. Any more discussion? Hearing none, let's go to a vote. All in favor? Aye. Against, same sign. Motion passes. All right, next we have, it's a resolution, adopting a resolution to receive feasibility report, call for a public hearing on improvement and request for contract amendment for Bolton and Mink for improvement 2316 South Brainerd resurfacing. Looks like the presenter listed is Public Works Director Mike Habegorst, but it looks like Jesse Dean, our city engineer, is also available. Whoever?
Yeah.
Yep. Mr.
Thank you,
Dean?
Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President. So attached to your packet is the feasibility report that Bolton Mink is now prepared for the South Brainerd resurfacing project. So Bolton Mink staff is here to be able to answer questions as well as staff. Also attached to the packet is a contract amendment request. We are including an additional replacement of 10 hydrants within the project area, which was not included in the original scope of work for Bolton and Mink. So to accommodate the additional hours for the design and construction administration for that, they're requesting a contract amendment for roughly about $32,000, if I remember correctly. So that is also included in your packet. Staff is recommending 2 actions with this item. First is adoption of the attached resolution that council received the feasibility report and call for a public hearing on the improvement to be held at the first council meeting in February, which would be February 3rd at 7:30. And then the second item would be to approve the contract amendment with Bolton and Mink in the amount of $32,130. And can I answer questions?
I got a question.
Anybody have questions? Mr. Chesak?
Yeah, Jesse, you talked, are they hydrants or are they gate valves?
Both.
Okay.
Replacement of the hydrants and then installation of new gate valves in front of them to be able to service those hydrants without having to shut off the main.
Okay, and then one other thing, in the agenda request, it has you still listed as Public Works Director.
Must have been a typo.
Okay. Just, that changed as of January 1st, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions of staff? Mr. Johnson?
What is the total contract cost with Bolton and Mink? Like, how much is this 32,000 as a percentage of the contract?
So the original contract was for $68,450. I can quick add this together.
So this is essentially a 50%
Roughly.
contract increase
sir.
to 10 new hydrants? And
Yes, sir.
the other engineers weren't allowed to bid on that? They just added it later?
I'm sorry?
No, that answers my question. Thank you.
Any more questions of staff? If not, then we're looking for a motion. We can have
Two-part motion, correct?
two-part motion. First part is adoption of the resolution, receiving the attached feasibility report and calling for the public hearing on the proposed improvement to be held February 3rd at 7:30 PM. And the second part, we can do one at a time if you want, that's fine. Second part is approval of the contract amendment request by Bolton and Mink in the amount of $32,130.
Can it be done in one motion?
We can do it in one or two.
I'll move for both. Approval.
You need to do two?
The first one's a resolution.
Oh, the first one's a resolution. We need to do two. We'll do two.
I'll move the first part then.
We have a motion,
Second?
second by Erickson. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, we'll go to a vote. All in favor?
Mr.
Aye.
President?
Resolution.
Oh, man, this is tough.
That's three.
Tough gig
You're
up
about
here.
done.
That's 3 strikes.
Erickson?
You started off 0 for 2.
Yes.
Bevins? Bevins?
Yes.
Chesak?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Stunek?
Yes.
O'Day?
Yes. Looking for another,
Move to approve the pay increase for the Bolton and Mink.
Second?
motion by Chazak, second by Erickson. Any more discussion? Hearing none, we'll go to a vote. All in favor? Aye. Against, same sign.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-1. All right, moving on. We have another resolution for improvement 2113 for the Beach Oak Ridge Reconstruction Project and ordering a feasibility report. Looks like, again, we'll have Mr. Dean and Mr. Habegorst.
Thank you, Mr. President. So attached is a resolution that orders the preparation of a feasibility report for the Beach and Oak Ridge Reconstruction Project. So this would be Beach from Oak Ridge to Oak Street and Oak Ridge from Beach to 28th Street. And I can answer questions.
Anybody have any questions?
Is mine?
Mr. Chazak?
This full depth reclamation, it's water sewer?
Full reconstruction is what was currently included in the scope. We'll be doing more as part of the feasibility report that we'll present to the council.
So when you say full, that means we're not just mill and overlay and we're taking care of everything we're doing.
Yes, sir. We're planning on replacement of utilities. As we develop that feasibility report, we'll get some more information from there.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
So
Questions?
move to adopt.
Second.
We have a motion to adopt and a motion by Erickson, second by Chazak. Any more discussion? Hearing none, let's go to a vote. Or this is a resolution again.
Good catch.
I caught that one, Stunek.
Erickson?
Yes.
Bevins?
Yes.
Chesak?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Stunek?
Yes.
O'Day?
Yes. That resolution passes. Next, we have another resolution for improvement 1712 Wright Street South 10th Reconstruction Project for ordering a feasibility report. And this is just really interesting stuff tonight, one after another. Again, this is Public Works Director Mike Habegorst and City Engineer Jesse Dean.
Thank you, Mr. President. So very similar to the last item, staff is recommending adoption of the attached resolution that orders the preparation of feasibility report for the reconstruction project for Wright Street between 6th and 13th Streets, as well as South 10th between Industrial Park Road and Wright Street. And this would be for what's planned as a reconstruction project, and staff can answer questions on this as well.
Does anybody have any questions for staff?
Real quick.
Mr. Chazak?
Yeah, when was the last time this road was actually fully improved? I was on it, actually New Year's Eve, and it is pretty bad. So I'm glad we're doing it.
It's been a few decades, but I'd have to get more information that'll be included with the
It's had a
feasibility
lot of
report.
like patchwork and stuff over the years, though, right?
It's had some patchwork. BPU has done some repairs to hydrants and stuff, so there's been some cutouts for that as well.
Thank you.
Anybody else have questions for staff? Mr. Johnson?
Will this feasibility report give us options on how we can remove all those UPS trailers from 10th Street? No, maybe?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you.
I think we have an ordinance for that. All right, do we have any other questions for staff? So we're looking for a motion to adopt the attached resolution, ordering the feasibility report for improvement 1712 Wright Street South 10th Street reconstruction project.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Stunek, second by Chazak. And this is a resolution. Unless we have any more discussion, go ahead and call the roll.
Erickson.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes.
Chezak.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Stunek.
Yes.
O'Day.
Yes. That motion passes. Next, we have direction on active code enforcement cases. Let's see here. And this will be Community Development Director James Kramvik.
Thank you, Mr. President. So staff is bringing one property before the council for review tonight and is looking for direction from the council as how to proceed. 823 Willow Street has a substantial amount of junk and debris in the backyard and as well as on a trailer. Staff has abated this property once before, so they did receive an instant $300 citation. And staff is recommending obtaining a search warrant and abating the property.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for staff on this?
What's the address again on this?
823 Willow Street. We're also seeking a court injunction on an illegal rental on that property as well.
All right.
I would move to follow staff's recommendation on this.
Second.
Motion by Chezak, second by Johnson. Do you have any more discussion? Hearing none, let's go to a vote. All in favor? Aye. Against, same sign. Motion passes. Trying to find which one we're on here. L. Now we're on 10L. This one is a variance for 303 J Street Northeast, considering a variance from fence height requirement. Again, this is Community Development Director James Kramvik.
Thank you, Mr. President. So this property has a long history regarding the fence. The fence was placed on the property line along J Street without a permit in the fall of 2022. A 4-foot fence would have been allowed in that location, but the property owners constructed a 6-foot fence. Staff attempted to work with the owners for approximately a year as they were in contact with us. Final letter was then sent, and staff proceeded with a citation process as they did not comply with the letter that was sent. Staff would not have recommended a variance at this location that further out to where the property line is. There is no practical difficulty unique to the site. This fall, the property owners moved the fence back without a permit, but is still not placed properly for a 6-foot fence. The property owners have now applied for a variance for the fence location due to the existing sidewalk that is on the site. Staff believes that the existing sidewalk does constitute a practical difficulty. The location has nothing to do with economic considerations, which is part of the requirements of variances. When viewing the location, the fence does not abut to another property or extend to the alley, so there's no impact to neighboring properties or the public right-of-way. And the design of the fence is consistent with the neighborhood as well. The Planning Commission motioned to approve the request, but it failed from a 2-3 vote. The consensus reason for not recommending approval is the fact that they did not want to work with the city to figure out a solution. The fence could have been designed to extend from the facade where it's located right now and then angle back to essentially conform with the code. As the Planning Commission motion failed and an alternative recommendation was not given, staff does recommend approval of the variance request as presented for the reasons outlined earlier, as well as in the findings of fact. Just one note, if approved, staff will bring a request by the property owners to remove some or all of the nuisance assessment fees. This was heard last October when we did go through this, and there are nuisance assessments totaling $4,950. Again, this would be council's consideration. And with that, I can answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Kramvik. Does anybody have any questions for staff? No questions for staff? I have one question. So would you say, James, at this point that they are working with the city, even though in the past they didn't necessarily?
They have been working with the city for the past couple of months to get the variance request in, and if granted, the variance then would allow the fence to remain in place.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, what is the status of the nuisance items on the property?
I've not checked since after Christmas here, but those items were cleaned up as well.
As of before Christmas?
As of before Christmas.
Okay. Any other questions? Staff is looking for direction. Recommendation from staff is to approve the variance request as presented. Does anyone have a motion?
So moved, Johnson.
Second.
Motion by Johnson, second by Chesak. Does anybody have any more discussion? I will say it's been a lot of staff time that's been put into this over the last couple of years. But the goal is always to get people to work with the city, and at this point, they are working with the city. It's a fence that we're talking about, so it would be nice to move on from this one and go forward. Any other discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Against, same sign. Motion passes. It's a long list. I got to scroll to the bottom every time. So we have next we have a proposed ordinance. It's a first reading. Ordinance 1578, lot standards and building design standards. Again, this is Community Development Director James Kramvik.
Thank you, Mr. President. So at the June 20th Planning Commission meeting, the commission directed staff to begin reviewing the general building development and design standards, our district lot standards, and considering mixed-use development in the commercial corridor district. The new code passed in 2022 had many beneficial elements, but a few standards, as recommended by staff, should be changed. Staff has worked with the code for the past couple of years and understands the strengths and weaknesses. The purpose of this review is to further ease the burden of development while creating stronger language to ensure new construction conforms with the neighborhood. As you recall, we went to a form-based code, and that's one of the aspects of that. Staff included highlights of the proposed ordinance in the memo. One of the biggest changes is potentially allowing mixed-use development in the commercial corridor district. So the commercial corridor district is along Washington Street, essentially from the river, the bridge there, to Fifth Avenue Northeast, right in that Cub Food area. So with that, if council were to approve that, right now residential is not allowed within this district. There are a few nonconformities in there, but allowing mixed-use development would give developers options and may help incentivize revitalization in this district, since housing does have a better return on investment. This was initially talked about at the EDA as a potential way to redevelop this area and was recommended by the EDA for the Planning Commission to take a look at this. However, allowing residential units in this area area may affect collection of future sack and whack charges, as the Central Business District incentive policy forgives sack and whack charges along Washington Street. It could amount to considerable more forgiveness from a commercial property moving to, say, a 2 to 3 story residential mixed-use apartment building. So something to consider there. Staff does recommend potentially 2 motions. The first, to conduct the first reading of proposed ordinance 1578 and dispense with the actual reading. A vote to dispense with the actual reading of the ordinance must be unanimous. And then staff did provide options for the city council. Option 1 could be direct staff to bring proposed ordinance 1578 to the January 21st city council meeting to conduct the second reading and consider the ordinance. Option 2 would be to direct staff to bring the proposed ordinance 1578 to the Utilities Commission meeting on January 28th for recommendation based on the sack and whack charges, and then conduct the second reading at the February 3rd city council meeting. Or third option would be to have the city council review and, if approved, then bring it to the Public Utilities Commission. So I'd be looking for 2 motions potentially, and I can certainly answer any questions.
Does anybody have any questions for staff? Mr. Johnson?
Yeah, I have a question. Why would we bring it to the Public Utilities Commission? I mean, I understand why we would inform them what we're doing, if they don't watch the meetings or whatever, but why would we bring it to them when they're city charges? They're not utility charges, they're just city fees.
Yep, they are city fees, so that's, kind of option 1. It would not have to be brought to the Public Utilities Commission. Certainly, when this was originally reviewed, the sack and whack charges, it did go to the Public Utilities Commission meeting. They made the recommendation to council. This may be a significant change if an apartment, mixed-use development apartment complex did go in there from what the original Central Business District and policy was approved at. So just for consideration of council, and that's why I had provided options.
And their recommendation on the sack and whack in the Central Business District was no recommendation, right?
There was no recommendation.
Okay.
There was some consensus that they, had some concerns with it and wanted to potentially talk about in the future, but at the meeting, there wasn't a formal motion made.
Okay, yeah. So they just wanted to complain. I'm in favor of option 1, but
I got a
Okay.
question.
Mr. Shezak?
So if we move forward with approving the ordinance, first reading, and it passes eventually, exactly what happens in this area with sack and whack? Are we waiving them across the board? Is that what this is doing?
It is.
Okay. So then maybe I could ask, when it comes to sack and whack, who is control of those dollars?
The city council first collects the fees, and Connie may be able to answer this as well, but I believe city council, or the city first collects the fees, and then city council has to approve distribution to the Public Utilities Commission.
And at the at the last January 2025 meeting, council voted to send the water accessibility charges to BPU on an annual basis.
Okay, and then, I don't know who can answer this, but when we have these potential revenues that we're just waiving, maybe, I don't know if Mr. Evans, being he's been in the business a long time, when we do that and we're decreasing the revenues we have to work with our water lines and our sewer lines, how can that affect us? Is there a positive to that you can think of, or is there general, or losing money to work with down the line somewhere? Is that not true, that we're kind of giving up the, we're saving a business or a potential residential use? Does it matter to the public utilities what the use is? Or in the same vein, if we're not collecting these fees, where does the money come from to do projects? Maybe.
Mr. Evans, you want to take a poke
Well,
at that answer?
I'll take a stab at that. Yeah, quite a few questions there.
Yeah,
I would
it's
say,
multiple.
I guess I would start that as a utility department, the use or what's done on the property is neither here nor there. That we would just be concerned, I guess, with usage, flows, gallons per minute, those type issues as far as to see what the impact would be to a system. And then I guess as far as if those charges are not collected or distributed, that just means that when a project or a section of the system that's impacted by a project later on, that would just be funded directly through bonds or cash on hand in the absence of another source of funding.
Does that answer your question, Mr. Chesak?
I think so. So then if we're not collecting sack and whack, would it be fair to say that eventually we're bonding for projects, including those dollars that we otherwise could use sack and whack on? And then who's paying for that? Would be taxpayers? Would that be a fair statement? Or ratepayers? One or the other?
County's nodding yes.
I mean, yes, that would be if we have to issue bonds, they're paid for by the ratepayers.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I disagree.
Yeah, Mr. Johnson.
Do I still have?
Oh, sorry. I thought you were done. My
No,
bad.
no, I'm not.
Still have the floor.
Yeah, thank you. So, we went through this before, and, you know, I think it's a feel-good thing we're doing. Oh, great, we can save this person or that business a few, you know, a couple thousand here. And is that really gonna keep a business, operating? Is it gonna keep them, is it gonna prevent them from being successful if we do this? Because we continually give away the money through these, what do we call this, a sack and whack waiver, and we're not collecting the fees, and we say, well, this is oversized here, and it's all the things in between though. Everything comes down to who's winding up paying for it in the end, and we feel good about, oh, we gave that business a little break. Is it really that much to give that little break? And then in the end, over the course of a few years, we've given all this away. Then who's making it up? It's our fees, our ratepayers and everything like that. And if that's the way you want to do business and we're just patting ourselves on the back all the time, the EDA, is that what we're doing? Thinking it's all a great thing to help business succeed? I don't look at it that way because somebody's got to pay the bills. That's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Chesak. Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. There appears to be a fundamental misunderstanding of what our sack and whack charges in the city of Brainerd are. We have laws in place of collecting this money, and the laws also state where the money shall be spent. And the money isn't spent replacing pipes. The money isn't spent fixing what we have. Our sack and whack funds, per our own laws, can only be used expanding the system. So when we're waiving them downtown, when we're waiving them on Washington Street, when the city engineering department has assured us that the infrastructure in place will not need to be upgraded for the foreseeable future, when we collect those fees, all we're doing is charging businesses downtown to later expand the pipes further past the edge of town. That is what our laws say. We cannot fix pipes with sack and whack funds. We can only expand the system. So when you're waiving the fees, yes, when we expand the system beyond the stretches of town, that is going to come from ratepayers or something. But when we're fixing the pipes for downtown, or we're fixing the pipes on Washington Street, we can't use sack and whack dollars. That's only ratepayer dollars. So just to answer that question.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Anybody else have any comments, questions?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chesak.
Yeah, well, when we talk about expanding or fixing, I am talking about expanding. So if something comes in and we have to expand a portion of the sanitary sewer line or water lines to accommodate something that's that we would hope to have, something comes in that's say a large project that we didn't see coming, and now we got an expansion, and now we got to pay for it. Sure, I understand, your point on the law that you can't repair and all that, but that's not what this money would go for. What I'm talking about is simply something new, something that needs improvement. That's perhaps something unexpected that we'd want in the city. And then again, where does the money come from? If we're waiving, we can save the money from sack and whack. We've done it for years, where we put it in the coffers and it sits there until it's needed. And so we just keep waving it here, waving it there, and then when we really need it, we don't have it. That's what I'm talking about. Is that incorrect, the way I'm understanding it?
You can't replace a pipe with sack and whack funds.
Okay, so the way I see this is an incentive for development, for redevelopment. This is something that was brought up at the EDA. This is something that was an idea to be pushed forward through the rebuild of Highway 210. I see this as something temporary. I don't see this as something staying in place as our, as our way to do business forever. But I do see this as being something valuable right now in a time that we do want to speed up redevelopment on 210. I support it. I totally understand Mr. Chezak's concern. I think Mr. Johnson did a good job explaining why it's not exactly maybe what you're picturing. But I'm going to support this motion. I don't know if there's any more questions, comments, concerns from the council.
I'd, move to approve.
Well, we don't have a motion. We're actually looking for, first to conduct the first reading of proposed ordinance 1578 and dispense with the actual reading would be the first motion we're looking for.
So moved.
Motion by Erickson,
Second, Johnson.
second by Johnson. Any more discussion on that? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor? Aye. Against, same sign. Motion passes. All right, and then going with the options, I did hear from Mr. Johnson, option 1 would be what he would be looking for.
I'd move option 1.
Second.
Motion by Johnson, second by Bevins. Any more discussion on that? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor? Aye. Against, same sign.
Aye.
Motion passes. All right. Moving along. Figure out what letter we're on.
And
N? All right, this is a discussion of the future of the City Hall Annex building. And this one is for City Administrator Nick Broyles.
Thank you, Mr. President. Staff just wanted to bring this before council for hopefully some discussion and some direction on what the council is thinking for the future of the annex building. By way of a brief history, Region 5 had previously considered a long-term lease agreement in 2022. That did not come to fruition. No one is currently occupying the annex. Relative to maintenance of the building, a new roof was installed in 2020, but the annex is in significant need of HVAC updates and repairs, new or refurbished windows, elevator repair, and various cosmetic updates. Council has allocated $160,000 in the capital plan that has been rolling over in the budget. At the April 4th, 2024 meeting, the EDA recommended approval to enter into a brokerage agreement with CAMP for sale or lease of the annex. Subsequently, on the May 6th, 24 meeting, the City Council unanimously authorized the EDA to enter into a brokerage agreement with them for the sale or lease of the annex. Just wanted to bring this before council now. Staff is receiving renewed interest from potential buyers and would like to get a sense from the council of your vision for the future of the building. Just a couple other comments. I do believe, and staff believes this, I think we've got the right pieces in place. We do anticipate future growth for Brainerd, and additional office space, if that growth occurs, may be limited. Furthermore, if City Council continues with efforts to integrate across various functional areas within the city, there may be significant benefit to retaining the annex for office space. Making necessary repairs to an existing building that we already own would be significantly more cost-effective than new construction. If, however, council desires to sell the annex, staff will obviously work with potential buyers and present to council when appropriate. However, if council does wish to retain the annex for future office space, etc., staff recommends making the necessary repairs soonest, as the building is deteriorating more quickly without the HVAC repairs. So just discussion, some direction, as we see it, as staff sees it, there's a couple things that the council could do here. They could direct staff to continue to work with Camp Real Estate and Development to aggressively pursue selling the annex. Or number 2, council could decide to retain ownership of the annex and direct staff to provide cost estimates and timelines for needed improvements. With that, I would just open it up for any discussion or direction from council.
Does anybody have any questions for staff?
Yeah, I do.
Shazak?
So, Nick, I mean, this has been talked about for 20 years, maybe, and quite a while, anyway. And when we talk about direction that your staff is looking for, I'm assuming that, does that play a role in going into closed session and talking about our item regarding the proposal that we received?
Yes, sir, we do have some more information that we'll talk about in closed session.
And then I guess what I'm asking is, would this discussion we're having here not be allowed in closed session based on, does it not tie together with the proposal?
I talked to our attorneys, and basically having a discussion whether or not we should keep or sell the annex would not be prudent in closed session. That's an open session topic.
Okay.
If council does want to sell it, we can discuss some of the particulars in closed session.
Okay. And then, I guess, is there any vision for connecting the two buildings over the alley over here? Or is that something that has never been, as far as you know, talked about?
I think there's been some history. I think some folks here have more history than I do. I think that's been discussed. I certainly, in my vision for the city of Brainerd, have an interest in consolidating more of the functional activities on this campus here. And so I see some benefit. And, but I guess more importantly, as I've talked with department heads and department head meetings, I will ask sometimes rhetorically, you know, if we have 6 more staff in the city, do we have office space for them right now? And it would be pretty challenging. So I'm just trying to, I'm not clairvoyant, I don't have a crystal ball, but I just want to make sure that council has all the information they need to make a good decision for the future of the annex.
Well, I know we had a facilities committee put together, I think, in 2016. And I was on that, I believe it was 16. And one of the things that was discussed at that time was connecting with some sort of walkway between the two over the alley. And if I'm not mistaken, it was determined that that wasn't that wouldn't be able to be achieved for some various reason. But I could be mistaken on that. Maybe somebody else said there would be some record of that. So I don't know. That kind of prevented the idea at that time, anyways, of connecting the two facilities. Now, could that? Is there something more that I don't remember exactly? But my memory is telling me that that was something that was discussed, and it was either going to be over cost prohibitive or something to that effect. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Kelly, you may remember, Gabe, you were around then, perhaps, just seeing if you guys remember any of that, but.
I can't speak to that. I'm not sure what was discussed.
Sure.
Mr. Johnson?
I can try to answer part of that, Jeff, if you'd like.
Yeah.
I remember when we did the facilities study, when we did the actual facility repairs here at City Hall, we didn't do anything over at the annex. But our HVAC system here at City Hall was built to the capacity to tie in and heat and cool the annex if and when we ever do that.
Okay.
I do remember looking at the walkway between the second and third floors. I think the prohibitive thing there was, how do we find ADA compliance when that hallway is midway between a floor? We don't have an elevator stop there. We'd have to find space to install a lift or something like that. I think that was where that never really moved forward, but the conversations were definitely had, and the HVAC definitely has the capacity to handle both buildings.
Yeah, and I may be incorrect, but I believe we have designs somewhere, that basic designs that were created at that same point, because I remember seeing documentation showing that and showing that tie-in, including the walkway. So somewhere we have, from the last handful of years, we have that.
Anybody else have any questions for staff? Comments? I'll just give my opinion. I'm open to anything with the annex, whether it's keeping it city and using it for office space, or open to hearing out offers. I don't think, I mean, it's just been sitting there for a long time. It sounds like we still have some questions about whether or not we want to invest in that ourselves. So I think based on what offers are, if there's other offers out there, the one that we might hear about later, if it's the right offer, everything is for sale. maybe not the rest of City Hall, but there is a vacant building attached to City Hall that if somebody could use it more immediately with less cost to the city. But I think we need more details about what we're willing to put into that building before we really make a decision on that. Unless somebody wants to put a motion, but we can always just continue this conversation later on.
Well, I guess if we're interested in the possibility of using it for our own purposes, we don't have any kind of specific dollars that have been identified to do what we'd want to do with it. Is that correct?
I don't think it's that amount.
Pardon me?
Mr. Broyles? Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think if council would, we haven't done the staff work to put together numbers on what it would cost to get it up to code, if you will. And we don't want to put that effort in unless council wants us to put that effort in. So we don't have the exact numbers. So in my mind anyways, we can talk more in closed session a little bit about this, but the big decision is, do we want to sell it, and we can talk about some particulars, or do we have an interest in keeping it? And if we have an interest in keeping it, then staff could put together some staff work to put together some numbers and some timelines.
One question, if I may?
Yeah, Mr. Chisholm.
We could still go talk about the proposal in closed session, and then at another date, talk about more detail about what you're speaking of right now. That'd be totally fine, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Bevins?
I think that there's probably an option 1.5 here, and that's to direct staff to get some more answers as to what it's possible, first of all, that we could use it for. Because it makes sense to me that what we already have certainly would be less expensive than buying or building another building somewhere else. And it's right next door. I mean, it's theoretically, as Mr. Johnson thought, connectable.
Right.
So I'm sure there's some issues. ADA compliance, heating and HVAC and that sort of stuff. But I think before we need to get some more information. And I think staff coming back, I think the option here, or the best course of action, is to direct staff to come back with answers as far as what we could use it for, what we might need it for, and what it might cost to upgrade it.
Is that a motion?
It is.
Second.
We have a motion. I don't know if I'm going to repeat the motion, but is everybody clear on the motion?
Except you.
Yeah, well, beside the point. So yeah, just as a point of discussion, sorry, we had a motion by Bevins, second by Stunek, correct?
Yep.
I think what we're comparing here is when we expand, because inevitably we probably will need more space, is it going to be into that building, a different building, or an expansion off of this building? We have room to do that too. But until you know numbers in comparison of the two, I think it would probably be cheaper to keep the one that we have. It's hard to make a decision without that. So I think this motion is right on with what we need. Any more discussion? Hearing none, let's go to a vote. All in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Against, same sign. Motion passes. Right.
You wanted to gavel.
I almost gavelled.
Saw it.
I'll get it later.
Doesn't work on the mayor, I've tried.
It's impossible.
10-0, we have a resolution calling a public hearing on a property tax abatement for certain property in the city of Brainerd. And this is Community Development Director James Kravitz.
Thank you, Mr. President. So the developer Country Manor initially applied for tax abatement assistance in January of 2022 with a revised request submitted in the fall of 2023. The request in 2023 had been recommended by the EDA and granted by City Council as a 45% of the city's share of taxes related to the project for 10 years. The developer's most recent request for assistance is for 65% of the city's share of annual tax abatement revenues for $1.2 million for up to 20 years. This was reviewed at the last EDA meeting as well, and there was a recommendation by the EDA essentially for that a little bit different because of some of the staggering of what that 65% would look like over the years. But with that, the purpose of this agenda request is not to review the abatement request, but to consider a resolution to authorize and direct staff to publish a notice in the dispatch, setting a public hearing before the City Council on Monday, February 3rd for the abatement request. A new memo will be prepared for the February 3rd City Council meeting that will reflect a blended tax structure that was recommended by the EDA, an updated estimated taxable value from the county, and the city's payable 2025 tax capacity rate. And with that, staff recommends approval of the attached resolution.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions of staff? No questions of staff, then we're looking for a motion.
So moved.
What's your motion?
Huh?
Move to approve?
Yes, move to approve.
All right. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion by Chesak, second by Johnson to approve. Any more discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor?
Resolution.
Oh, again?
That's why you look at me.
Have we ever had this many resolutions in a meeting?
We have.
Yes, that means go over here.
Okay. Gonna look
Erickson,
at Stunek from now on.
Yes.
Bevins,
Yes.
Chesak.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Stunek.
Yes.
O'Day.
Yes. That resolution passes. All right. Next, we have something informational. Get this
Not a
pulled up.
resolution.
Hopefully not a resolution. This is city issuing conduit debt. This is for Finance Director Connie Hillman.
Yes, thank you.
Take it away.
The city has been requested to issue $50 million of conduit debt for the Country Manor project. The city has issued conduit debt in the past, but it has been several years. A memo from the city's bond council was included in the packet, and it detailed the legal background on how the city is able to issue conduit debt for the project, as well as the impact to the city. The council will call for the public hearing at the February 3rd meeting to be held on March 3rd, at which time the council would adopt a resolution issuing the conduit debt. So tonight, this item is informational. However, overall discussion on the issuance of conduit debt should be held. If the council is opposed, Country Manor needs to know to find an alternative municipality to serve as the issuer. $50 million of conduit debt is needed to make the project go. As mentioned in the agenda request and in the memo, with issuing conduit debt, there is no obligation for the city to repay the debt. There's no impact on the city's credit rating. The debt does not count towards the city's debt limit. All expenditures associated with issuing the conduit debt will be paid for by the borrower, and the city can charge an administrative fee. However, the current fee that's in the city's debt policy is too high and could result in the tax-exempt bonds becoming taxable. So staff will work with bond counsel and bring a proposal for an administrative fee at the next council meeting. The issue with issuing conduit debt does count towards the city's annual $10 million bank qualified bonds that the city can issue. So if the city would issue debt later on in the year, it could result in a higher interest rate. However, it is not common for the city and the conduit debt borrower to enter into agreement where the conduit debt borrower compensates the city for the additional interest rate. So really the issue is the bank qualified debt, but yet we can work around that as well. So the recommended action is general discussion on the issuance of the $50 million of conduit debt for the Country Manor project, and any questions that council may have in regards to issuing conduit debt.
Anybody have any questions for staff? Mr. Johnson?
So when you say the $10 million annual limit, does that mean we just would be at risk if we issue debt in 2025? We can take out this $50 million conduit debt this year, and as long as we don't take out debt till 2026, we're good?
Correct.
Do we have plans in our capital improvement plan or anything to issue debt in 2025?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Well, yeah, then I'd like more information coming back.
So then that would be where we would enter into agreement, and the conduit debt borrower would repay the city every year of the debt of the issue, the difference between what we would have paid for an interest rate on bank qualified versus what we are actually issuing the debt for.
Okay, could you, are you going to be able to calculate how much money that is?
with our bond council, yes, we would be able to.
Okay, because I'd like to see that number. While I wish Country Manor nothing but success in our community is serving elderly folks. A lot of businesses fail and just dissolve and disappear, so.
I do believe it was addressed in the memo that the difference in the interest rate is usually about 1 to 1.25%.
Yeah, that was in the memo, but I just don't know how much debt we're gonna issue this year, like how much money we're talking. I'd like to see that.
Right, and we don't know at this point. We were estimating about $5 million.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions?
Yeah.
Mr. Chazak?
So, this might not be exactly about issuing the conduit debt, but what is the total amount then? Is it 50 million that the Country Manor would be able to access? Is that what I'm understanding?
They're basically issuing bonds for $50 million to make this project go.
And is this something that is kind of been brought forth that's new to the city, or has this been kind of in the works all along?
I do believe it's been, when Country Manor built in St. Joseph, they issued, City of St. Joseph issued the conduit debt. So when they just kind of wrapped it up here, and that's why we're proposing it now, if this is something the council does not want to do, we have in our policy, it said that we can issue the conduit debt. We have done it in the past. That's why I'm bringing it to council tonight to kind of have general discussion, because if council is saying, no, we don't want to issue this conduit debt, we need to let Country Manor know right away.
But as far as their plans, Country Manor, when they came to the city and they want to put this project forward, is this something that's been on the table right from the beginning, or is this kind of new to us being brought forth as it's something new they just kind of came up with?
I think it was part of their funding package, but I don't think the city understood what their funding package was until recently when they're filing their package up.
Okay.
So this is something that was new, brought back in, I think, December, when we first started talking about it at the EDA. They said they wanted to have the city issue conduit debt. So we were gathering information, because this was something new for me as the finance director as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chazak. Anybody else have questions? I'm sure there'll be more when we revisit this on February 3rd or March 3rd. What am I
Well,
reading?
February 3rd will call for the public hearing to be held on March 3rd.
Okay.
So what I'm hearing is that we are probably okay. We don't need to Country Manor and raise any red flags at this point. This is something that we look like.
Not opposed at this time.
In general, it sounds like we're open to it, is what I'm feeling up here.
But to Gabe's point, you still wanted to get something back, like maybe by our next meeting? Is that what I'm?
By February 3rd or March 3rd, before we go to the public hearing, I want to have the information in hand.
There'll be an agreement that we'll make with the conduit debt. I don't think we'll have any numbers because we don't know how much debt we're actually issuing yet. We don't know what our interest rate will be, so we don't know the difference between the interest rates. So it'll be an agreement that they have to make up the difference.
Okay, but we won't have like a rule of 10, right? It's gonna be like 10,000 a year, or 100,000 a year, or 1 million a year?
I don't think
We
we'll know
can't even
that
get
at this
that close?
point.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like this to go through PNF in February, as soon as we can.
Okay.
Get whatever information that you need, Mr. Chair, if you are the chair.
Yeah, who knows?
Okay? And this was just informational, so unless anybody else has any questions or comments, we can move on. All right, moving on. Item number 11, we have public forum. Oh, man, I'm getting tired of this scrolling. 1 second here.
You can just stay on top now.
What's that?
You can just stay on page 3 now.
Read it right off of that.
Oh, there it is. That's what I'm looking for.
A hard copy.
All right, this is the time allocated for citizens to bring matters not on the agenda to the attention of the council. And we'd like you to keep it to a few minutes. So if anybody's here to speak at public forum, we'll open the public forum.
Oh,
Now,
Whoa, official. Don't scare me.
the public forum is now open.
I didn't see that coming.
If there's anybody in the audience that wishes to address the council, please come forward. If there's anybody in the audience that wants to address the council, please come forward. If there's anybody online that would like to address the council, please hit *3. Sounds right. IT Sean says that sounds right.
Just hit all the buttons on your keyboard.
And one more time, if there's anybody that wants to address the council. And it looks like no, and now we will close the public forum.
You're 2 for 2 on gavels.
That was pretty good. All right. I gotta scroll to the bottom again, 1 second.
It's getting gavel happy over here.
I might start hitting it more. Now we're gonna move on to staff reports. Let's start with Tony Gage.
That's a new one.
Curveball.
I like this.
Different. Nothing from Tony. Chief Holmes. Chief Davis.
They're afraid
IT
to
Sean
talk.
Strong.
Nothing tonight.
Connie Hillman, Finance Director.
Nothing to add.
Mike Havicors, Public Works Director.
Yes, I have a couple things. Just to announce, we have a new skid steer in our Public Works Department, and talking with both the streets and the parks, they're actually going to be sharing that, and that was a big, it was just a good discussion, and then both departments, both divisions are going to be happy to share that skid steer. So that was a nice compromise and good teamwork. My other announcement is just with our transit department. We did our survey, our numbers for 24, and the average ride per day is 154 riders per day. So I thought that was pretty amazing to just announce, and that's all that I have. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Havicors. Next, James Krambeck, Community Development.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Just one item here. So the Planning Commission at their last meeting began discussions on data center regulations, and we'll continue working on crafting an ordinance at the next meeting. There was no official public hearing at the last meeting, but the commission heard testimony from interested parties before really digging in and working on the ordinance, and that's everything I have.
Thank you, James. Next, we have City Attorney Joseph Langel.
Joe sends his regrets. Christian Schaefer, everybody. Nothing from me.
Thank you, Christian. Chris Schubert,
Nothing to add.
Chris Evans. All right. And City Administrator Nick Broyles. You guys thought I was going to forget, didn't you?
Just a couple comments. I hope everybody had a good Christmas and a good New Year. We're very excited. Staff is very excited. It's a new year. I think our staff is stronger now than it was a year ago. We got some great people, and we're anticipating some fantastic things in 2025. I do want to thank outgoing President Bevins for your mentorship and advice over the last 11 months. It's been very helpful for me. And I want to congratulate our returning and new council members. Congratulations. I'm looking forward to serving with you all again in 2025. And also to President-elect Mike O'Day and Vice President Gabe Johnson. Congratulations, and looking forward to a great year.
Thank you. And I screwed up for the seventh or eighth time. Eric Charpentier, we have you online. Anything to report tonight? I heard something.
I think that was no.
Say no, Stunek?
Can't hear you, Eric.
A little muffled.
He could read lips. He's talking. He's talking.
I think he says he's good. All right. Moving on to council. Chief Stunek.
I have nothing.
Mr. Chesak?
Yes, I have one thing. As their last meeting, community, I'm sorry, it's Mr. Havicors indicated that the city bus was going to do the tour of lights at the Arboretum, and it worked great on Thursday the 26th, as I understand. And I was on the bus on the 27th, and we packed them in there, and we got over there, and there's a sign, electricity and water don't mix. So all the people got on the bus, and they couldn't go through. So it was unfortunate, but I think people enjoyed the bus ride overall, and it was a fun time regardless. So it was very interesting. That's it.
Mr. Erickson.
Good to be back. Nothing to add further.
Mr. Johnson.
Yeah, I hope everybody had a blessed Christmas holiday and spent some time with family and ate some good food. I hope everybody has a happy new year. And just one more thing to add. I received a phone call from a constituent today, and they told me how great of a leader John Davis and Tim Holmes are, and how the city is so blessed to have those two leaders leading two of our departments. So I just wanted to pass that feedback along to you gentlemen.
Mr. Bevins.
Nothing to add.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I was gonna say you skipped me.
Yeah,
We're
You
doing
know
things
what?
a little different here.
It's a new year. You're struggling enough. Nothing to report. How about that?
That's the best.
How about that?
Breath of
How about
fresh air.
that? It's never happened in the history of the world.
Breath of fresh air. Thank you for that.
There's a new leaf turned over.
I'll just add, I thank you for your confidence in allowing me to be your president of this council. I'll do my best. Hopefully I'll do better next time on remembering the difference between a resolution and a regular motion. We'll get the hang of it. But in the next couple of weeks, we'll send some emails out setting up leadership positions, asking about requests on which commissions you'd like to liaise, and hopefully in the next week or two, we can nail all those down. So I'll chat with Tony and Mr. Broyles, and we'll set that up. So thank you, moving forward. And unless anybody has anything more, we're looking for a motion to adjourn to the closed session per Minnesota statute 13D.03 subdivision 3C3 to consider offers for the sale of the annex.
So moved.
Second.
Motion Johnson, second Stunek. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All against, same sign. Motion passes.
Good job on the adjournment.